Yeah.
I would imagine that in each of your practices, when you're dealing with people who are struggling with serious illness, they've either been through a pharmaceutical regimen that hasn't worked, or they're on it when they come to you. And is it generally a matter of using cannabis to wean off of the pharmaceuticals, or are there possible synergies between cannabis and FDA-approved pharmaceuticals? And oftentimes people get into a bad, look, I'm going the natural way. I don't want to have anything to do with that. And they can end up dying because they could have benefited from a chemotherapy agent. Or it could be the other way. We won't hear about cannabis because that's just flaky stuff, and they're going to go all the way to their grave with these pharmaceuticals. How does it play out in each of your practices?
I'll start off. I think it's very individual. I think for some people, and I'm sure you guys can attest to this, there are families that or people that come in and say, this medicine helps me. It's not my job to convince them to get off of that pharmaceutical. Now, if they think it's really toxic, I will give my opinion. And then I say, it's up to you, it's your body, and you get to decide what you put in it. But for some patients, so for instance, I do find that there's a population of, it seems, young men that have ADHD, and they have found that some of the ADHD medications help, and they're happy with the results during the day. They can function at school, they can go to work. But what they complain about is the insomnia and kind of the speedy side effects. They're not hungry. And so some patients are able to get off of those medications because the cannabis will actually treat the ADHD. But some patients find that they don't function that well, or cannabis does not work to help the ADHD. And so they use cannabis to counteract the unwanted side effects. And there's an example of where they can coexist.
And I think clinically our job as clinician is to meet people or patients where they're at with the tools that we have, right? And so I think that one of the things, certainly having the background in Chinese medicine, is I will have patients come and they're like, I want to do everything natural, and it's so clear that the allopathic answer is clean and definitive and is not long-lasting. And I absolutely encourage someone to go that route, and then support them with the integrative medicine. And then I think conversely, sometimes clearly allopathic medicine has failed them, and then sort of opening the door to cannabis and other herbal therapies or integrative therapies that might actually give them better efficacy, but also open them up to something that they previously had never even heard of. I think that's a lot of our responsibility.
I think we have to think about two things as the clinicians. One is synergistic opportunities between cannabis and prescription drugs. We know that THC and CBD also work on the mu and delta opioid receptors. They create something called analgesic synergy when we use them together. That is why we are able to see patients reduce significantly their opioid burden or come off of them completely. There might be a really good reason for somebody to remain on a low dose of opioids so long as they have cannabis on board too, which we also know decreases the addictive risk of those opiates. Also for certain cancer types, we know that chemo and radiation therapy plus cannabis is more efficient and effective than either one alone. So in our clinics, then we see a lot of cancer patients. And in Oregon, it's a little different, right? We have a qualifying condition. This in California, it's really whatever condition your doctor thinks cannabis will benefit people who need. So we actually get referrals from Oregon Health and Sciences University for cancer patients, and we have to have that conversation with them and tell them the truth. A lot of them want to get right off that chemo and radiation, and listen, we'll support you through that too. But what research is actually showing us is that you can get a lot more with both. And again, cannabis reduces significantly the toxicity of chemotherapy and radiation. And now number two that we have to consider, the number two consideration is drug-cannabis interactions, right? Depending on how you're consuming your cannabis, those phytochemicals, they're metabolized through that liver, might also interfere with the metabolism of prescription drugs. Therefore, it is our job. I don't expect the lay person to be able to make a determination, or the bud tender to be able to counsel somebody on potential drug cannabinoid interactions. That's our job to do that.
Hopefully they're not doing that. No, it's true. Yeah.
One thing, I'm just gonna a little controversy what Rachel was talking about. So many of my patients who are taking opiates are being told that they cannot use cannabis at the same time.
Yeah.
The CDC has come out and said their recommendation is not to test chronic pain patients for THC. There's a synergy. Let them have their cannabis, but there's a study that shows that it takes 17 years for information to trickle down to your doctor, which is terrifying. So you may need to be the person that walks in there and says, here's the data. I'm just going to leave it with you and let you read that. Remember this very sensitive ego of doctors? Put it out there and say, hey, you know, the CDC says, you know, because I had a patient who had to choose between opioids through her HMO pain doctor that was like, she was at the end of the line, there was nobody else that would help her, versus cannabis. And she actually chose cannabis, but she had to go to rehab to get off the very high doses of opioids because it was going to take so long and they wanted to cut her off within the month. It's really, the burden is on us to, and everybody here who you have the knowledge, you have the Google machine, print things out, share it with the doctors. In a very kind of friendly, what I would say a friendly way, and say, here is something, you know, maybe you don't know this or maybe you do, but like this is where I'm coming from. Because you want your doctor to be your partner, you don't want your doctor to be the principals shaking their finger at you, right?
And I think that's really important too, because the 17 years is without crowdsourcing, right? If you're a physician in LA or the Bay Area, I'm assuming Portland as well, it's like our patients are coming and saying, listen, this is what I'm doing, how can you help support me, or do you have additional information? Whereas I grew up in Southern Indiana, it's a very different thing, I'm sure, if I went back to where I grew up. So I think that that's really important. This really is a group effort that we're doing for the health of everyone, right? But I think also that individual patient physician-clinician relationship can be very much driven by and influenced by what you all bring to us. And so